So this video is for all my friends and family associated with Camp AJAWAH up in Minnesota. Every year we have several sessions of camp, and once every session we have what's called Hmong Night. And Hmong Night we serve Hmong egg rolls. And this is the recipe that we use up at camp. I have helped over the course of many years doing this with the Hmong families that come up to do this every year. And I've kind of got the recipe down, and I want to share the recipe and the method for making these with everybody. So enjoy, and I'll begin the video with just a little bit of my shopping trip. Most of the stuff that or a lot of the stuff for the egg rolls, the bean thread noodles, the wrappers, and the sauce, you're not going to find that in a regular grocery store. So pull up Google Maps and find one of those big Asian grocery markets that are going to be somewhere in your town. That's where to get all the stuff, and I hope you enjoy the recipe. So I'm at the Asian market near my house. This is the vermicelli noodle aisle, and got some bean vermicelli, nice and narrow. You can get everything you want here. Gonna pick up some ramen and all the sauces you could possibly want. We're going for this guy, Panda brand oyster sauce. And again in the sauce aisle, the chili sauce for spring roll. And here we got the spring roll shells, pastry. I usually get the Tides brand. So here's the ingredients. Spring roll pastry wrappers. This recipe will make about 50 egg rolls. I actually have 3 packages, so I got 75 wrappers. Sometimes it'll make a little more, it all depends. But a pack of these is like $1.50. So you can get more if you want, that way you'll have enough. Oliver is my helper today. So anyway, we need the spring roll wrap, we need cabbage, onions, carrots, ground pork. This is about 1.5 pounds. Vermicelli bean thread noodles. So bean vermicelli. They're very, very thin. A lot of different brands here. This is the sweet chili sauce for the spring rolls. A couple of different brands here. Find whatever kind you think you like. Usually it's a very tall bottle. Key ingredient is the oyster sauce. Everyone I've ever talked to, especially up at camp, when we make these, is the Panda brand. Got to get the Panda brand of the oyster sauce. So we're going to soak the noodles. We're going to shred the cabbage very finely, chop the onions very finely, grate the carrots, and we're going to break apart the pork. And that is all going to go into a big giant bowl. So first you just take the bean vermicelli and you soak it in a bowl of hot water. You don't have to boil the water, it's just got to be very, very hot coming out of the tap. Each brand of vermicelli is a little different. Sometimes these packages of these little blobs of noodles are wrapped in a string. So look at them very carefully to see if they're string and cut the string away and take it off. This particular brand does not have string, so into the water it goes. So now I got my cabbage has been chopped up pretty finely. The carrots I've done on the grater, and it's about 2 cups of each. And over here, the noodles are still soaking in the hot water. I think they're pretty much ready. You only have to soak them about 10 or 15 minutes, so I'm going to drain the water there. And then what you want to do is take a pair of kitchen shears and shred the noodles a little bit. You want to cut them up into small pieces. So we're going to drain the noodles first and get those all cut up. And one more ingredient that I forgot to mention a little earlier, you need 3 eggs. And here we got onions, again about 2 cups of that too, adding to the mix. So far we have our bean thread noodles, which have been cut up with the scissors, about 2 cups each of the cabbage and carrots and onions. Alright, so I got the ground pork all separated, and I've also now added to the bowl eggs, 3 eggs, not 2, and a couple tablespoons of the oyster sauce, and about a tablespoon of salt, and I'm going to mix this all by hand. And before I mixed it, I took about 1/4 of the noodles out. Different ratios you can make this. I felt that the amount of noodles in here was a little high, so I took some out, and I could add them back in if I think I want more. But I want to make sure I got enough of the meat and the veggies in each of the rolls as I make them. Say hi to the audience, Oliver. He's trying to help here. And so that's what the final mixture should look like. You got the noodles and the cabbage, carrots, onions, and the pork and the spices, and kind of in equal amounts there. So this is going to be set aside for a little bit. We're going to take the wrappers here. Hi, Oliver. We're going to take a pack of wrappers at a time and separate them. They're a little tricky to separate, but once you get them separated, it speeds up the rolling process, which we will start very soon. I'll show you how to do that. So peeling the wrappers is just gently peeling them off of the package one at a time. And once you lay them down, you want to keep them covered with a wet paper towel, just slightly damp, because you don't want the wrappers to dry out. So let's just peel and put on the pile. And the wrappers are surprisingly strong. They don't tear as long as you move slowly. If you yank, you'll rip them, but if you just take them and go very slowly, they're kind of stretchy, but they will come off in one nice piece. Just add that to your pile and keep going. All right, here we go with the rolling process. I have my wraps just right here out of sight of the camera. So I'm going to take the paper towel off. I'm going to grab a wrap, put the paper towel back on the pile of wraps again to keep them from drying out. And I put the wrap diagonal wise so the points are front and back. And I grab a blob of the mixture. I would say it looks like about 2 tablespoons worth. And I put it right in the middle, and I leave some on the sides for the edges, and plenty of room here. I'm going to take the back of the wrap and I'm going to completely cover it like that. But then I'm going to use my fingers pressing down, and I'm going to kind of pull back a little bit, and I want to make this tube that's here, I want to make it nice and tight. If you wrap these loosely, they will not work really as well. They will break when they're cooked, and you'll leak ingredients all over your deep fryer. So again, I pull this back, I want that kind of tight. Then I take the 2 sides and I bring it pretty far in. I want to cover this side with a lot of the wrap material. Again, I'm going to take this On this side, I'm going to cover that a lot, and then I'm going to roll, and as I roll, I'm rolling it tightly. I want to keep it tight. I don't want it loose. And next to me, I have a bowl of cornstarch and water mixed. You can also use an egg yolk. I kind of prefer the cornstarch and water. It sticks a little better. I wet my finger with that. I wet the tip of the roll, and then I just finish the rolling process. And there we go. So the roll is about, I'd say about 5 inches long, maybe an inch in diameter, and that's it. So I'm going to do a couple so that you can try to get a feel for the process. Again, I am diagonal. Get about 2 tablespoons of the stuff, and it doesn't have to be exact. Some of these rolls may be a little bigger than others. Some of them may be a little smaller, and that's okay. You don't want them super big. You want enough wrap material to wrap a couple times around. You don't want this like, an inch and a half thick. You want it, I'd say it's about the diameter of a thick broom handle. That's about what we're going for here. Again, I pull it back so that it's nice and tight. I fold over the edges pretty far. I want to cover the ends of these and tuck them in. And then as I roll, again, I'm pressing down, I'm squeezing, I'm kind of pulling back here against the wrap that's on the table. And the reason for having these not huge like your typical Chinese egg rolls is you want enough of this material to wrap around a couple of times. If it only wraps around once, spring roll wrap material is very, very thin, and it will tear again while you're cooking. So there we go. That's another one. And we're going to do one more without the commentary and just let you watch. And there we go. So we're about halfway through. Here they are. Got a batch of pan of about 25 rolls here. And just a note, I did scratch using the cornstarch and water thing for sealing them. I'm not sure where I read that, but it does not work. They peel apart. So I did use egg yolk in a bowl here for sealing the edges. It works much, much better. So taking a 5-minute break here, and I'm going to finish off the rest of this. As I said, we're about halfway through. I may or may not need to crack open that third pack of wraps. All right, so the wrapping is done. This particular batch ended up making 45 of the spring rolls. If I'd used all the vermicelli noodles, it probably would have been closer to 50. But in my particular batch, I wanted just a little bit less of the filler this time and more of the veggies and pork in each of the rolls. So the third package will go back to the wraps will go back to the freezer. And for those of you doing this for the first time, I'd highly recommend getting an extra package of wraps. As you end up wrapping them, you will get better at the wrapping process, and you will discover that about the first half dozen, maybe more, of the rolls that you made weren't quite right. They were too fat, they were too loose, And that's okay. As I said, the wraps are super cheap. They're about $1.50 for a pack of 25. So if you end up in that situation, use some extra wraps, crack open an extra package if you have to, and re-roll them. That's okay. You just cut open the wrap, throw the stuff back in the bowl, and roll them again. That's not a big deal. You do want to make sure that they're all, as I said, fairly consistent, not too fat, and nice and tight. If you hold the wrap like the roll like this, you don't want it sagging down. That means if it's kind of floppy, then your roll is too loose. You want it nice and tight so it holds shape. And I'm going to heat up the deep fat fryer and we're going to start cooking. So now deep frying the rolls. I happen to have a thing called a Fry Daddy. It's preset for deep frying. If you don't have a fryer with something like this, you want your oil at about 350 degrees, and you want to deep fry them for about 10 minutes till they're a nice deep golden brown. So here's what they look like before cooking. Here's what they look like after cooking. Again, you want to give them a good 9 or 10 minutes. There is pork in here, so you want to make sure everything is thoroughly cooked. And in the fryer, you want to just turn them every now and then to make sure that all the sides get cooked evenly. And that's how you fry them. So we'll show you them all when we're done. And here's the final result. I have these out cooling completely, and I'm going to pack them in freezer bags, 4 or 5 per bag, and we will have these in the future. So that's it. I did indicate at the end of my cooking video that I was going to store these. I usually make these in advance for later. I will put 4 or 5 of them in a quart-size freezer bag and put them in our freezer. And to heat those up, you spread them out on a cookie sheet lined with parchment paper, and put them in the oven at 300 degrees for about 15, maybe up to 20 minutes. And about halfway through, you want to turn them over. And these will come out just like you cooked them right out of the fryer. The skins will be crispy and they'll be tasty and hot. And you serve them with the chili sauce as shown in the ingredient list. So enjoy.